Good morning from Bangkok. So this time we are heading back to the past. Auckland, 2012. That's when I came across a book that changed a lot of how I see and perceive death and the afterlife. I came across this book called Many Lives, Many Masters of Dr. Brian Weiss. I can't remember how that happened. I I can't remember. I somehow I got this book, and I think because I actually started to read something on the internet about near-death experiences, and I think somewhere they were mentioning about the books, and I guess that's how I decided to get one and read it. Not really sure now. It's been a while ago now. But like this book basically talks about a doctor, psychologist that trying to help a patient with phobias and fears, and unable to help her with all the traditional way, and he tried this new experimental method that he was learning about, and it was that to hypnotize the patient through hypnosis, try to get rid of all her fears, try to get into her subconscious, and try to find out where and why those fears were disrupting her life in the first place. So what he didn't expect is that she began to channel spirits from another dimension and began to recall past lives, where actually all those issues that she had in this current life was actually coming from. They were all problems that she was carrying with her for many lives. This changed completely the life of this doctor, that after many years worrying about it, to share what he learned, and finally he decided to write a book that actually cost his job at I think it's Stanford University, where he was where he was a professor and doctor. But the university, I'm not really sure, but it was in New York. So now, like, what he learned from this experience was why we come into this life, and the reasons was to learn lessons, to learn about love. And this was all shared by those spirits that through this woman were talking to him. They were calling themselves masters, and that's why the name of the book, Many Lives, Many Masters. And so after reading this book, obviously my interest for the afterlife grew bigger, and I began to get really fascinated about the past lives regressions, because like checking on the internet, I found a lot of articles about people that were that were practicing those past life regressions, where they were put people under hypnosis, and then those people would start to recall past lives and so on. At the time, I couldn't find anything in Auckland, and at some point, unfortunately, I had to leave. And that's when I ended up in London. So in London, I started to search for people that were doing past life regression until I found one guy that felt to be, like the most serious. I mean, in this kind of world, the world of fortune tellers, psychic, past life regression, and so on, you have more charlatans and you have more people that thinks to have psychic gift than actually the people that really have it. Are really few the ones that really have gifts, really few. So it's easier to get to a wrong one than a right one. So I try just to go through intuitions, like just feelings, and I felt that this guy, Nicholas Ayula, he's based in London, was the best one. And plus he had like a good review that could be fake, but it felt like a legit, like it felt like a genuine. So I called, booked an appointment, and meeting was in his house in New Malden. I will never forget that evening. It was surreal. I arrived to New Malden and it was foggy, but like foggy like I never seen it since then in London. I could barely look in front of me. It was so dense and heavy that it made it like so unreal. So I found his place, and he get me inside the living room where there was a big couch and another chair. He tells me to sit and relax, and we start. So now I don't really think I went under any kind of hypnosis, but I won't deny the weird thoughts that came out for no apparent reason, like thoughts that was just popped inside my head, and they were like, why? Amongst the many, there was two that really drew my attention while we were doing the regression. So the first one was like just literally like an image of a girl dancing in a meadow, and next to her another image of a girl that I felt was a person that very important to me, that I met in Auckland, a Korean girl that played and have played until now a very important part of my spiritual growing. The next scene, like the next image that pops inside my head, was about a girl in a fetus position like a baby, and then a man with a belt hitting the woman repeatedly. So it felt like it was me, the one hitting the woman, and the woman felt again to be this Korean girl. After that, no more images, no more thoughts came into my head. So we keep going for a bit longer, and then we finished the session, and I left. I, to be honest, a bit disappointed, but definitely some of those thoughts was really made me think why they came amongst other, and so on. So I left really not much impressed at the time, And I moved on with my life till I met one day another psychic, a fortune teller, that this time I went to see just because out of curiosity, because I was to house party, and I overheard someone talking about this really powerful woman based in Milton Keynes, just outside London. So I start to listen, and seems like this woman was really gifted. So I couldn't resist from asking, like, where she was based and her phone number, because I really was curious. And at the time, I was starting to really discovering this new life, that was this life of made of spirits, psychics, and so my journey was to a point that was starting to change to a complete new direction that over the years developed more and more and more. So I get the number, I call Pauline, her name is Pauline. She gives an appointment for like a month and a half later. I mean, she was fully booked. And finally the day arrives to meet her. I go to Milton Keynes, another surreal place. This bloody Milton Keynes, for whoever lives around London, I recommend Milton Keynes, because Milton Keynes, it's weird. Like, it's the way it's been built, it's weird. But anyway, this is not the point. This is not what we are talking about right now. So I go to see Milton. I go to see Pauline. You know, she asked for my name. She, you know, where I was from, and then she start with telling me that I had a 37 lives, 34 as a man, 33 as a woman. Sorry, 34 as a woman, 33 as a man. And the last two past lives were one in Russia and one in Mongolia. And then, you know, she begins to channel messages, and she tells me, like, you know, quite a few things. I would win the lottery. I would meet the woman of my life, that was a blonde lady with blue eyes, that would show up in my shop with a portfolio. I would develop a issue with my immune system. I would lack vitamin B, vitamin D. And then she said that there would be a man always looking for me, and the name is Connor, and I would have teeth problems that would cost me a lot of money, and that by the next year I would leave and move to relocate to somewhere else. All right, you know, very interesting, and you know. And anyway, it ended up being a nice trip out of London. So I went back home, and slowly everything started to unfold. Not exactly like she said, but with the key points, like spot on. Like, okay, I never won the lottery. I ended up for the first time in UK to win the lottery. The only problem there was £5, but okay, that's Then one day, one of my staff, at the time I was running a cafe inside the Fulham Broadway station, she stops by at the cafe for coffee before go to uni, and with a portfolio, and the girl is blue eyes, blonde. So I didn't know she was studying, so I asked her, what do you do? What are you studying? I'm a graphic designer. And she had a portfolio, like Pauline said. So, like, obviously she wasn't the woman of my life, but she did get that someone with blue eyes and blonde with a portfolio would show up at the shop. Next, Connor, there is a man always looking for you. So there was a guy at the time, his name is Robert. Used to be a regular customer in another cafe, and he liked me a lot, and he would come in the cafe, he's looking for me. And after I moved to work in this other coffee shop, always in Fulham, he would come often in my cafe to see me. So one day he shows up, and I felt like, okay, maybe its surname is Connor, maybe it's him, the guy that always looking for me, because I didn't know, I always call him by name, and I only knew his name, that is Robert. So I asked him and say, Robert, but by any chance, is it your surname Connor? And he looked at me and was like, oh no, but this is funny because actually my grandmother, that was Scottish, it was Connor. So again, she got it like almost right, but not completely right. So what makes me think is that she can see things. Certain things she can see clearly, and certain other things she kind of like interpret it in her own way. So they kind of like can see the key points, but then the rest, she kind of like make probably her own story that feels that could happen. So, and now we're getting actually to the points where actually she did get it spot on and right. I would develop problems with my vitamins, my vitamin B and vitamin D. So at the time I was getting very serious with my being vegetarian and vegan, and because I was not eating properly, I was getting so weak. My body was getting so weak. Some days I really had like no energy. So one day I decided to go to see a doctor and do a blood test, and it turns out that I was lacking of vitamin D and vitamin B. So the solution was or taking tablets that I do sometimes, or eating properly, so to get all the nutrients. And that's what actually I started to do, eating properly, and that slowly solved the problem. Then Paulie mentioned about teeth problems that I would have, and that would cost me money. Okay, so in this case she was kind of like spot on, because one day my mom calls me and she tells me, she asks me for money. It's like, Alex, I need 2,500 pounds. I need to remake all my teeth. They're all ruined, they're rotten. I needed to make it all new. So it technically wasn't my teeth problem, because my mom needed money and I had to give her 2,500 pounds. Technically it was my problem, my teeth problems, and it did cost me money. And the last, so she said that in the next year I would move to live in another country. So at the time, there had no plan to go to live anywhere else than stay in London. So I really couldn't see like myself anywhere else. But one afternoon I met with a girl, and was from Thailand. So we start to chit chat, and she tells me that she was based in Edinburgh, Scotland. So I kind of like stopped keeping in touch, because there was no point. I was in London, she was in Edinburgh, but for some reason she kept messaging me, and until the point she invited me to go to visit her in Edinburgh. So the interesting thing is that I always told my friends there was no way I would go to visit Scotland. It's too cold, it's too grey, and like I was not interested at all, and never really made any plans to visit it. But this time, because obviously I was interested in this girl, I decided to make a trip, for a couple of days, and then when I was on my way, like the first few synchronicities started to show up. And normally the synchronicities happens when you are on the right path. It's like a sign, like that you are doing right. So the first I remember, I was on the bus and my brother calls me, and he was in New Zealand at the time, and he tells me like, "Oh, Alex, are you gonna watch the match, the All Blacks?" There's the New Zealand rugby team nickname All Black. I was like, "No, why? Well, like they are playing in UK. They're playing versus Scotland in Edinburgh, and it was the same day that I was going. I was going to Edinburgh." And then, like when I arrived, an old friend from that lives in Auckland, like she hadn't been in touch with me for ages. She reached me and asked me for a few things, but I mean that's not important. But the fact is that all those events around Auckland, New Zealand, in the same day, with the rugby team playing in Scotland, the day I was there, and so on. So, like, something was going on, and soon I began to understand what was going on. I arrived in Edinburgh, and literally was love at first sight. There was something that was special there. It was something amazing about that city. There was an energy that I felt like so comfortable. It was just like unreal. It was magical.